Hey guys, so today we're going to be dealing with trigonometry. We're going to find unknown sides. The previous knowledge that you're required to know is right angled triangles and the basics of right angled triangles and equations or your inverse rules. So let's go through the steps. It is very important that you always start by labeling the triangle. Don't try and do shortcuts because you'll make silly mistakes. Always spend some time to label the triangle. So how do we label this triangle? It's quite simple. Opposite the right angle is always the hypotenuse. And we see this little round circle with a line through it. We call that theta. And theta in mathematics represents an unknown angle, or known, and opposite the angle that's given is always the opposite side. And now you only have a third side left of the triangle, which we call the adjacent side. And you'll see that it's adjacent to the angle. So the first thing is, opposite the right angle is hypotenuse, opposite the actual angle is opposite, and the third and remaining side is adjacent. We also label these as H, O, and A sometimes. That's the first and most important step. The second step is your trigonometric ratios. You need to memorize these. Certain students find different ways to memorize it. I just like the SO, CA, TOA rule. So meaning sine theta equals opposite over hypotenuse, SOH. Very important to have it in that order as well. Opposite then hypotenuse. CA, cos theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse, and TOA, tan theta equals opposite over adjacent. So, CA, TOA. It's very important to memorize this so that you can apply it to whichever triangle is given. Now, at one given time, you'll only be using one of these three, and you determine which one to use by first labeling the triangle. That's step number 2. Step number 3 is to substitute the values into that ratio. Then we use equations to get the unknown by itself. And step number 5, we indicate the unit of measurement and rounding off if it's applicable. Sometimes in the question it will tell you to round off to the nearest meter or centimeter or 2 decimal places or 2 significant figures. Very important to see what it says. If it doesn't say one, always indicate in your final answer. So let's go through these steps and use an example. So step number 1 was to label the triangle. We have our right angle in the corner there, so this 13 meters is going to be my hypotenuse. I have my angle of 36, so opposite that, where the x is, this is going to be my opposite side, and my last side is my adjacent side. Now that I've labeled my triangle, let's have a look at which two sides am I using. I'm using H, because there's a 13 there, and I'm using O, because there's an x there. Now, which one of our trigonometric ratios uses O and H? So, CA, TOA. So it's sine. So we first write our trigonometric ratio, sine theta, or angle, equals opposite over hypotenuse. Step number 2, we substitute the values in. So we know sine, do we know the angle? Yep, it's written there, 36 degrees. 36 degrees equals x over 13. Now you'll see that I put the 36 in brackets. That's only because the calculator, or most Casio calculators, automatically put that degree in brackets, so it's very important to close that bracket off. Now the next step is to use equations to get the unknown by itself. The unknown here is x, and it's divided by 13. So the inverse or opposite of divided by 13 is to multiply both sides by 13. And that cancels that bottom one out. Now I'm left with x equals sine 36 times 13. And this is where it's so important to close that bracket. Otherwise, you won't get the correct answer. So now we just simply type that into our calculator. Sine 36, close bracket, times 13 equals x equals 7.6412, so on. So obviously I'm going to round this off, and I like to round off to 2 decimal places. So our last and final step is to 1, round off 7.64, indicate the unit of measurement. In the question it's meters, and how much I'm rounding off to 2 decimal places. And that's my final answer there. The value of x is 7.64 meters. Let's go on to example 2. Now, first step, label the triangle. My right angle's there, so this is going to be my hypotenuse. My angle 16 opposite is 5 meters, and the last one is left is adjacent. Which two sides am I using? I'm using O and A. Which trigonometric ratio am I using here? So, ka, toa. I'm using tan OA, toa. So tan theta, or tan angle, equals O over A. And it's very important that you get the right syntax here, where we have opposite over adjacent, not the other way around. So now tan theta, or 16, tan 16, equals opposite, which is 5 over x. And we know when x is the denominator, we can just swap that with the other side of the equals, or you can use equations, a long way to do it, but x is going to equal 5 over tan 16. Now, if you use a long method to get x over and then divide by tan 16, you'll get the same answer. We plug this in the calculator. Remember to close your bracket. X equals 17.437. My last and final step, to round off, to indicate the unit of measurement, and to indicate rounding off 2 decimal places. So the value of x there is 17.44 meters.